Welcome to Red, White, and Blue. From the right, I'm Gary Polland.
And from the left, I'm David Jones.
Tonight we welcome the two candidates for tax assessor collector in Harris County. They'll be running in November of 2010. First, Don Sumners, the Republican candidate, and following that, Diane Trautman, the Democratic candidate. Welcome to both of y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Somebody tell us the rest of the title, however, of this job, even though we know it may not be on the ballot. Don?
Well, there is a part of the position that has to do with voter registration, so you could stretch the title to tax assessor, collector, and voter registrar.
That's right. And so, Don, have you run for this office before? And I know you were a treasurer of Harris County once. What are your other political lives that you'd like to tell us about?
Well, I have not run for tax assessor or collector before, but I have worked for the tax assessor collector's office for the last 10 years, retired in November of 2009.
So you were working there under the leadership of both Mr. Betancourt and the now recently departed Leo Vasquez.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
And how about prior experience in politics as far as running for office?
Well, I ran for office for Houston City Council against Eleanor Tinsley. That was my opening race, my get my feet wet race. And then I ran against George Grenius for city controller, which was really sort of a follow-up 2 years later to that.
What do you think your best qualifications are for taking this job?
Well, I've got a lifelong career in financial matters. I'm a CPA, I'm a real estate broker, former certified financial planner. I've worked in public accounting for around 20 years, retired as a partner in a small national firm as a tax partner. So I have quite a bit of experience there. I started as an auditor, so I also have auditing experience.
Diane Trautman, you get to answer the same questions.
Okay.
Welcome, by the way.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me today. I have run for office before. I ran for state representative in District 127, my home district, against Joe Crabb, and then I ran for tax assessor in 2008 against Paul Betancourt, and came very close. And I think my best qualifications that probably a lot of people aren't aware of is that I have over 10 years of leadership experience in the banking industry. I started out in construction and residential lending and then went on to trust asset management and finished up in energy lending, all three at different major downtown Houston banks. And what I learned from that was the importance of earning your customers' trust. Of course, I have over 20 years leadership experience in education. I have my doctorate in educational leadership, and I helped develop a new leadership theory as part of my doctoral dissertation. I've been a public school teacher and principal in 4 large Harris County school districts, and I've been a professor of education at Stephen F. Austin State University, where I taught ethics, leadership, and education administration courses. So not only have I been a leader of a large organization, I've taught others to do the same, and I think it's a perfect fit.
Okay, let me ask you this, Diane. Why do you want to be tax assessor collector? You've got lots of qualifications that seem to would fit a lot of different jobs if you wanted to seek a public life.
Exactly. I think you can tell by my background I'm passionate about 2 subjects, and that is public service and good leadership. And I think now more than ever, we need new leadership in the tax office, a new direction. Leadership that is not connected to the good old boy regime of Paul Betancourt. We need a person in that office who will put people before politics, who will run a service organization instead of a political organization. And I think we need a leader who has the skills to work efficiently in this environment of shrinking budgets and be able to get the necessary tools and training for employees to do the best possible job. And I think I have the background and experience to do that.
Mr. Sumners, are you a Betancourt ally? Did he work for you in order to get you nominated for this job?
Well, Paul did not actively support me, no. But I worked for him for 9 years, directly for him, and I will stand on his record. His way of operating the office comes more to my way of thinking that the office is more than a bureaucratic job.
What you just defeated? I'm sorry, you just defeated the incumbent tax assessor collector, Leo Vasquez. You defeated him.
Yes.
Yeah. What was wrong with the job that he was doing?
He was not. He had abandoned Betancourt's agenda, and he wasn't really doing a very good job at actually running the office either. So I was very upset with the way things were going. All the departments were falling behind in their schedules and missing due dates and such. And when I called that to his attention, he really was not concerned. He had brought in his own people, and he was listening to them, and they were not doing a very good job.
So, Don, how would you, let's talk about what your vision is for the tax office. I mean, you're not running a race where if you're elected, you're going to just reestablish everything Paul Betancourt did.
No.
What is Don Sumner as tax assessor collector going to mean to Harris County taxpayers?
If you go back to when I was the county treasurer, I was an advocate for the taxpayer. I really see the job as protecting the taxpayer, not protecting the government from the taxpayer. And I think that's where Paul and I really sort of have the same kind of a philosophy. Obviously, we're different people. I'm not as exuberant maybe as Paul is.
Few people are.
Okay.
Don't take that badly.
Our way of thinking is very similar. I look out for the little guy, look out for the taxpayer, make sure that we're playing by the rules, and give them the best information and service we can.
So you almost defeated Mr. Betancourt in the 2008 election. So and now we see that Don Sumners is saying he'd like to bring Paul back, or being that style of leadership. What does that mean to you?
I have one question. If you're going to follow in the footsteps of Paul Betancourt, does that mean you're going to quit 3 weeks after you're elected? That would be a problem, and I think voters are not happy with that. You know, to me, as far as my vision for the tax office, you know, I think we all agree, paying taxes is a painful experience. And my job would be, as tax assessor, to make that experience as efficient and painless as possible, kind of like a good dentist. When people walk through the door of the tax office, I want them to know 4 things. Number 1, I will work hard to do more with less in this time of shrinking budgets. Number 2, I want them to know that I will ensure that their identities are protected and that the identities will not be offered for sale by tax office employees, as they were recently in the current tax office. Number 3, I want them to know that I will make sure the tax office treats all people with the fairness and respect due hardworking taxpayers. Grievances will be taken seriously and will be listened to and not rejected out of hand. And finally, as voter registrar, because that is an important part of the job, I want people to know that I will make the tax office a true service organization instead of a political machine that tries to tip the scales in one partisan direction or the other. I will simply do the job I'm elected to do, and by doing that, I will avoid the lawsuits and the controversy that have unnecessarily wasted millions of tax dollars.
Hey, Don, what about all these Democratic lawsuits they filed against Paul Betancourt?
Well,
were there any merit to any of them?
I would have had some involvement with the voter registration department as heading up the audit section of the tax office, and the lawsuit was really without merit. I will admit that there was a perception of conflict, but there wasn't any actual conflict. The Democratic Party was unable to come up with a single voter that said that they had been disfranchised. So,
But wasn't Leo Vasquez attacked within the Republican primary for having settled that lawsuit?
yes, there's a feeling amongst the Republicans that basically he gave in on a settlement that didn't even name any misdeeds. In other words, there was no charges that were agreed that or any misdeed that was agreed that had been done. Actually, the settlement, all it says is that he agrees to abide by the law, and but there's no mention in the settlement that there was actually any violation of the law.
If you had been tax assessor collector, would you have settled the lawsuit?
No, I would not have.
I want to ask Diane a question. Diane, obviously you ran against Paul Betancourt last time. It was a pretty bitter race from both ends. I want to hear from you what good things Paul Betancourt did when he was in office, when he took over for essentially Carl Smith, who'd been the tax assessor collector forever.
I'm sure he did bring the technology more up to date, and I don't think it was a bitter race, by the way.
Well, okay.
He never showed up at anything.
All right.
He was
absentee race. Okay.
Jerry, remember he was out the door. He didn't have to show up.
He didn't have to show up to win. That's right.
Never
Okay.
present. But I'm sure he did bring up the technology. I mean, most businesses, successful businesses in the last 10 to 15 years have gone online, so it's not anything that you wouldn't expect anyone else to do. Now, as far as a website, the website right now is having all kind of problems.
Yeah, but Paul's not in charge of that, and neither is Don.
Yeah.
So if you want to run against Leo Vasquez, you lost your chance because he didn't make the finals.
Well, but under Paul, also the website had some problems as well. Things like people trying to find out who their elected officials were. And some of the Democratic elected officials were not listed, but the Republicans were. So,
well, do you take the position?
Maybe they're not really elected.
Do you take the position, Diane, that on the voter registration part of the job, that there was a Republican machinery in county government that was dedicated to suppressing some amount of voters, only Democratic voters, only new voters? What?
Of course, it was a well-oiled voter caging machine. Betancourt was adept at it, and I think he probably learned from Karl Rove. I want to go back to what Mr. Sumners said about the lawsuit, though, having no merit. Republican Judge Gray Miller seemed to think there was a lot of merit to it, and he was the presiding judge in that case. Also, the Department of Justice thought there was a lot of merit into it as well, because they sent a letter stating all 20 of these items that need to be fixed had better be fixed, and we'll be watching. So I think it was definitely with merit. I think the real problem now is that, thanks actually to Mr. Sumners and I, only one of those 20 items has been done. We both complained to the Chronicle that he hadn't put rejected voters online and the reasons why they were rejected, and he did it a week later,
yes,
right before the primary.
All right,
Congratulations!
We did get that accomplished.
We can spend all day debating the voter registration lawsuit. It never went to trial. It never went to any contested hearing, as far as I can tell. And the main principals involved in the lawsuit are not running for office. So at the end of the day, it's not going to be an issue in November, at least in my humble opinion. But I want to ask you, Don, what are the issues? I've said, Diane, she brings a lot to the table, She's got a lot of experience. By the way, I should have called her doctor. Why, she says she basically wants to be, I guess you're saying she's going to be a non-political Democratic tax assessor collector. That's, I guess, what she brings to the table. But she seems well qualified.
I think, frankly, just as I told the Houston Chronicle when Leo and I were talking about their endorsement, I'll make it easy for you. The difference between the two of us is that one of us is willing to take the heat and be an advocate for the taxpayer, even if it's making the commissioners or the city mayor or whoever mad to do it. I feel like that's part of the job. The operation of the office obviously needs to be good, and I will mention, since it's been brought up, there's probably nobody has a reputation for being tighter with money than I do.
I'd see your letterhead says watchdog former watchdog
Yes.
county treasurer. I think most people would agree that we don't need a treasurer.
Well, I disagree with that too.
So you didn't run on getting rid of. I mean, you're a libertarian kind of guy. I would have thought that maybe that would have been a part of your agenda, was to get rid of an office that is just writes checks.
Well, that's not what the office does, but that's one of their functions.
Okay. Okay, Diane. Let's talk from your standpoint. What does Mr. Sumners bring to the table you think that's attractive for the office? Then I'm going to give him a chance to talk about you, like I did.
Okay. Definitely he has from what I've heard from other sources, been an advocate for employees, and I think that's very good. I feel the same way. I don't think you can have a successful organization without really taking care of your employees. And from what I have heard, he has gone to bat for employees at all levels of the tax office. So I think that's very good.
All right. So if you're elected, and you do whatever reforms you want to do to take care of the customer service aspects of the job, and that's now being done in an effective and efficient way, what are you going to do with all your free time, Diane?
Oh my gosh. Right now, the biggest problem facing the tax office is declining budgets, and that's, of course, countywide and citywide. If you looked at the paper today in the Chronicle, the next tax assessor is going to have to do more with less, and that's because of the 5% shortfall in property tax valuation that was caused by the foreclosures and leftover damages from Hurricane Ike. Add to that, nobody's buying cars in this economy, so we're taking a hit on vehicle registration revenue as well. So that's a double hit on the tax office. But it's also a hit on our taxpayers. The services that you and I and our families count on are going to be hit too. There's no doubt that it's going to be a challenge meeting that. But with the right leader who's had experience in making tough budget decisions, as I have, I think we're more than ready to meet the challenge.
John, are you going to be telling the commissioners how they should improve on their budgeting and their 5% and where it should?
No, that's their business.
Now, how can you be the watchdog if you don't take on that responsibility?
Well, I mean, because you're talking about just the operating parts. I'm really talking about more like things like if you want to get into present things, the soccer stadium being built with property taxes, which is in violation of the '96 referendum.
You mean you're talking about the referendum
that said property taxes will not be used to build public stadiums.
Okay, so I take it you do not think that they should use property taxes to build the soccer stadium.
That's right. They
Diane,
should not.
Should we take money in a tight economy, tough times? They got to cut your budget if you're a tax assessor. They want to spend your money and build a soccer stadium.
You know, the commissioners were duly elected by the public to debate and vote on these kinds of issues. The tax assessor does not get a vote in these issues. What concerns me is if the tax assessor is spending all this time fighting and bickering with the commissioners over matters that don't concern the tax office, when are you going to have time to actually run the tax office and solve the problems within the tax office? For instance, the lawsuit that was just filed against the tax office, and the settlement terms have yet to be implemented. 1 out of 20. Also, the head of voter registration department was caught selling our personal voter registration information to candidates in his political party. Also, the tax office just came in woefully over budget for this past year. So I think there's more than enough to do within the office. I just think that we need to make sure our own house is in order before we start telling other elected officials how to do their job.
Well, Don, you're going to have enough time to get your house in order before you start giving advice on all the money they're spending? How long is it going to take to get the tax office in shape?
I feel like I'm capable of keeping more than one ball in the air at the same time.
How quickly is it going to take you to get control of the tax office in terms of the issues?
I would say that if I was to take over, that I would have most everything solved within 2 or 3 months.
Let's talk some politics real quickly. Don, Leo Vasquez may have been a poor tax assessor collector. I have no idea. He was a leading Hispanic elected official within the Republican Party, which you do not have anymore.
Well, we have Orlando.
And so I'm wondering if you're getting any heat from Republicans over having accomplished that, having removed such a celebrated kind of figure.
No, actually, I have not taken any heat because I think that everyone in the party, frankly, realized that Leo was not doing a very good job. And so that more than offset the fact that he was an Hispanic.
You are, of course, as a person who knows about politics and running for office, knows how important that constituency of voters might be to your future and to the Republican Party's future, which I'm talking about the Hispanic constituency. Are you concerned about that voting bloc being in your corner with you having defeated Mr. Vasquez?
Well, I think my policies are policies that they tend to favor. You know, if you go back into my political history, I've lobbied for Hispanics with fighting at the appraisal district. I've been not actively, but somewhat involved on the east side. I knew a lot of the Hispanic, I guess you call kingmakers or leaders from the east side, and I don't have a problem with their agenda except for trying to get benefits that may not have been earned, as opposed to just
Hispanics
or anybody. But
right.
Yeah,
I want to talk about politics, my kind of politics, November politics, and I'll start with Diane. You ran in 1988. In 98. 2008. I'm sorry, got to get my dates straight. You ran in 2008. Strongest Democratic showing in Texas in years and years.
Thank you.
Obviously, very strong. Democrats had a great year in Harris County. Barack Obama, very strong. Okay, now we're moving into 2010. The electoral climate not as favorable to Democrats this time. So how do you, as one of the down ballot, but toward the top of the ballot, Democrats win in November 2010?
Right. 2 words. Bill White. We're definitely counting on Bill White.
That's very good, yes.
It is honest,
Yes.
and I think we're all counting on him, especially when you're down ballot as far as we are. But also, I believe there is still some excitement left over from the 2008 election. No, it will not be the turnout there. I think Mr. Betancourt got about 580,000. I got about 520,000. I don't know. I think the turnout will probably, to win, needs to be, or the number to win probably needs to be about 200,000, 250,000.
Okay, Don, how do you win? The Republicans seem to be coming back, but some people say the Republicans are peaking too soon, and by November they're going to start going down again. Or to deal with something else.
Should I just say Rick Perry? And
I thought you were going to say Tea Party. Would you have said Tea Party?
I think the Tea Party will have some effect, yes. And I'm counting on that effect, but that same effect will go to the governor's race. I don't think that they're going to probably pick out a down ballot candidate to push.
Do you wish you had at the top of your ticket a former big city mayor leading it in November?
Well, I have a different take on Bill White. I think by the time this year ends with or gets close to ending with the city of Houston's affairs being what they are, that Bill White's going to have lost a lot of his appeal.
And I guess, Diane, in our closing minute, maybe you can brag some more about Bill White if you choose. but since I think you'd probably rather talk about yourself a little bit. How is it? The question that I have for you is, how is it that you get all of these people that perhaps voted in 2008, who you claim now are not maybe as interested as they were then, excited again?
Well, I think they are. I think they are still a little bit excited. We do have to work hard to get them to come back out. We, of course, will have a coordinated campaign like we did last time in 2008. But also, we managed excuse me, to get the names, addresses, and emails and phone numbers of all of those people that came out in 2008. They are in our system, our VAN system. So all of the precinct chairs need only to access those names and phone numbers and get them activated.
There you go, Gary. She just gave you the game plan for 2010.
That's right. Find the voters and get them to the polls. Brilliant.
Thank you, guys.
Truthful.
Thank you, guys, for being here.
Sure.
We appreciate your time.
Certainly.
Thank you.
And y'all can view a follow-up discussion of tonight's show by going to HoustonPBS.org and clicking on Red, White, and Blue, so check that out. And until next time, get informed and get active.